którym roku się urodziłeś? Kim ty jesteś? A co jest dla ciebie najważniejsze? Czego byś chciał?
Talking in Time, The Power of Film Structure in Talking Heads. Directed by Krzysztof Kieślowski. Introduction. Krzysztof Kieślowski is most known today for works such as Decalogue from 1989 and the Three Colors trilogy from 1993 to 1994, among many others. However, many years before his shift to fictional work, Kieślowski started his career as a documentary filmmaker, often working for the Warsaw Documentary Film Studio, also known as WFDIF, directing nearly 20 documentaries between the mid-1960s to the early 1980s. And in 1980, Kieślowski would release the film Talking Heads, an often imitated work in which he asked Polish citizens 3 questions. What year were you born? Who are you? And what do you want? We are then presented with 44 citizens' answers to these questions, shown to the audience in mostly chronological order. While the premise of the film is deceptively simple, Kieślowski's editing process to create a cohesive structure elevates the film greatly. In this essay, I will argue that the unique structure and style of Talking Heads is used to inject the voice of director Kieślowski into the words of others. Historical context. Before diving into the content of the film, it is essential to briefly discuss the historical context in which the film was made. In response to an interviewer saying Talking Heads was relatable today, Kieślowski himself stated,
"I'm even surprised that you say that it works to some degree today. It is a typical portrayal of the 70s, the last year of that decade, 1979. It shows the state of mind of Poles just before that August of 1980.
1979 was a year of transition in Polish history, marked by much cultural unrest with the country's communist regime, which would eventually culminate in widespread strikes and the founding of the Solidarity Trade Union in August of 1980. Many of these sentiments are expressed in Talking Heads, with several interviewees listing unity and solidarity as their greatest personal desires for society at the time, especially with workers. Knowing the period of martial law, which would then be introduced from December of 1981 to July of 1983, gives the interviews and Talking Heads an underlying sense of naivety, while also providing insight into some of the widespread sentiments which would eventually result in the events of the next few years. Film structure. The facts. The film structure of Talking Heads includes a sequential ordering of interviews that follows the course of a human's life, from an infant to a 100-year-old woman. This is similar, in fact, to an earlier Kieślowski film titled 7 Women of Different Ages from 1979, which follows multiple ballerinas as they progress through life, from inexperienced to hopeful, to their prime, and then past their prime, reflecting on their youth. Kieślowski no doubt used the experience from making this film to guide him through the structure of Talking Heads. Talking Heads has a runtime of around 15 minutes and does not waste time between subjects. In just this time, 44 individual stories are told, 6 children under 10, 10 women, and 28 men. The children have an average shot length of 9 seconds and a total screen time of 55 seconds. The women of the film have an average shot length of 18 seconds, with a total screen time of 3 minutes and 3 seconds. However, men, while having a reasonably similar average shot time of 20 seconds to women, have a considerably longer screen time of 9 minutes and 36 seconds. It is interesting that women seem to have approximately 3 times the screen time of children, but only a third the screen time of men. In addition, the various sections have vastly different average shot lengths, which quicken or lengthen the pace of the film. For example, the first 7 interviews are moderately short, with average lengths of around 9 seconds, but the pace is then slowed to an average of around 21 seconds for the following 10 interviews of teenagers and university students. Kieślowski then moves us fast again during the next 14 interviews, which show professional life and the development of a family, with an average length of approximately 14 seconds. Finally, Kieślowski slows us down yet again for the final 13 interviews, just as the subjects themselves slow down with age. This slowed pace gives us time to breathe and reflect, with an average shot length of over 26 seconds. Kieslowski's vision through film structure. In this film, the power of the director does not come from eliciting powerful performances, huge set pieces, or polished dialogue. The power is in the edit room to create a structure that evokes the emotions and ideals you want to share. Kieslowski himself said,
"We interviewed several hundred, several dozen, and then, as we've said, necessarily hand-picked from all those, 30 or 40 people."
Thus, we can assume that the answers given by the people in talking heads reflect, to some degree, the interests, beliefs, or perceived notability of Kieslowski himself. The repeated mentions of Workers United, as well as feeling lost in life, can reflect both the citizens of Poland and Kieslowski himself. The pacing of the film also offers insight into who Kieslowski's views as having the most important things to say. Teenagers and university students have a high average screen time, reflected by their optimism about life and their dreams of the future. Similarly, the oldest people in the film get even more screen time as they reconcile with regrets and look back upon dreams fulfilled or unfulfilled, while providing insight for those younger. However, these are both contrasted with children who are focused on the present and selfish wishes, as well as middle-aged people whose focus on the workplace and raising children distract from their own dreams and introspection. This is of course not to say any section lacked depth, but merely that it is clear which sections received a focus from the filmmaker. Conclusion. Kieslowski is known internationally as a genius of the cinema, and upon studying the early films of a talented filmmaker, we can dive deeper into their artistic expression. Through the careful and mathematical analysis of this film, we have discovered many of the structural elements which impact the audience subconsciously. By studying the patterns of edits and average shot lengths, we can see how pacing is used to keep audience interest as well as show importance and emphasis. We can see trends such as the consistent flips between subjects looking left and right, and important outliers in other trends, such as 1935 and 1934 being switched. This unique cinematic structure and style allows Kieslowski to inject his own voice into the words of others. Thanks for watching.
Tak, kiedyś zrobiłem taki film dokumentalny, który się nazywał Gadające Głowy. I zadawałem tam ludziom tylko 2 pytania. Kim jesteś i czego byś chciał? I oczywiście potem, jak już zrobiłem ten film, to się zastanowiłem sam nad tymi 2 pytaniami. I właściwie, prawdę mówiąc, zrozumiałem, że nie potrafię na te pytania odpowiedzieć.